I'm working today with a group of kids from Newham, where I used to teach. We're studying poems from the first cluster of the poems from other cultures and traditions. We'll be looking to bring out the musicality of the poems and to have some kind of experiential approach to it. Both Island Man and Blessing have got a change in metre in them, and they pivot over a central point at which the metre radically changes, and I'll be bringing this out. Can everybody come out away from there and lie on the floor? Oh, yes, oh, yes. Lie on the floor, like you're dead, like you're asleep. Actually, pillow's fine. If you want a pillow, that's cool. I'm going to teach you a series of moves. I'm going to shout something, you're going to do a certain move. When I shout morning, you open your eyes and you stretch and you sit up. OK, so try it together. Morning! Ah, brilliant. Morning. If you look at how me and Brooke did it, morning! That's fantastic, well done. Let's try it again. Try it morning as just a stretch up like that. So morning and wakes up is the sit-up. Sound is hand to the ear. Blue surf. You get up is wave motion with the hand. OK, so we go back down there. Morning, wakes up, sound, blue surf. Great, the next two are, so you're up. Wild seabirds. Wild seabirds. OK, and sun. OK, let's go from the beginning. Go to sleep. Morning. Wakes up. Sound. Blue surf. Wild seabirds. Sun. Fantastic, that's really good. The next two are comes back. Grey. OK, so I do those together. Comes back. Grey. Right, and then when I say the word dull, you start walking around. Dull. With your head down, all the way with your head down. Muffling, on the word muffling, bend your knees. And I'm going to say muffling twice. On the second muffling, bend your knees really way down. Until I say the word pillow and you go back to bed. Go back to sleep, please. We're going to go through it all together twice. Here we go. First time, relatively slow. Morning. Wakes up. Sound. Blue surf. Wild seabirds. Sun.
No, you missed that spell.
No, I didn't. Comes back. Grey. Dull. Muffling. Muffling. Pillow. Heaves. Fantastic. Right, and now we're going to do it to the poem. So you've got the key words to do the action, now we've got the whole of the poem. It's called Island Man for a Caribbean island man in London who still wakes up to the sound of the sea. Morning! An island man wakes up to the sound of blue surf in his head, the steady breaking and wooming, wild seabirds and fishermen pushing out to sea, the sun surfacing defiantly from the east of his small emerald island. He always comes back. Groggily, groggily, comes back to sounds of a grey metallic saw, to surge of wheels, to dull north circular roar. Muffling. Muffling. His crumpled pillow waves. Island man heaves himself. Another London day. Well done. Just sit at your ease. That was really very good indeed. Right, Niall's going to give us his version of Shaggy doing Island Man by Grace Nichols. Right, and I want you to listen and pay the guy respect because he's done a pretty good version of it. But as you're listening to it, think, is this the right way to read this poem? Take it away.
Morning and the island man wake up to the sound of the blue surf in his head and the steady breaking and warming. While seabirds and fishermen pulling out to sea, the sun surfing defiantly from the east of his small emerald island. He always comes back to the sounds of grey metallic roar, to the surge of wheels, to the north circular roar. Muffling his crumpled pillow waves, Island Man heaves himself, another London day.
OK, it's a good reading, it's a good reading. Is it the right reading? Why? You think it is? What's correct or appropriate or good about that reading?
The accent's right.
The accent, it's a Caribbean accent and it's in the voice of a Caribbean guy, definitely. Yes?
The speed's right, because there's like no pauses in between. There's no like, punctuation or anything.
Right, so there's no punctuation, and you think the fact that there's no punctuation means that you'd have this staccato rhythm. Morning and island man wakes up to the sound. Well, you're kind of right, really.
It's straight through, you don't stop anywhere, so.
There's no punctuation, but there are gaps. No, he did really well. Take a seat. Can you hold down a beat? Right. What is this that he's doing at the moment? It's a beat. We all know that. We can hear it go, yeah, that's a beat. Can you describe it, though?
Baritone sound with a lot of emphasis.
Right, now we're moving somewhere. It's a what sound?
Baritone.
It's a baritone sound with a lot of emphasis. I would question a lot of emphasis. Does it have any emphasis? Does it stop?
No.
It's a bit like a pulse, like a heartbeat.
You got it. Right, a beat is a regular, repetitive pulse. Okay, it's a regular, repetitive pulse that goes underneath music. Yeah, that's what a beat is. Boom, 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 underneath music. When you have a beat in a poem, and all poems have got beat, it's got a different name. Every single poem ever written has got a beat behind it. You've just got to be able to hear it. And there is a correct and appropriate beat for each poem, and that correct and appropriate beat is called the meter of the poem. And the meter is the pulse, the regular, repetitive pulse under the poem. Get into pairs, please. Name one of you A, the other one B. Right, let's just do the first 11 lines. The first 11 lines, up to groggily, groggily, groggily. With your partner, I want you to sit opposite each other, OK? Knee to knee. Sit opposite your partner, knee to knee. Right, A holds down a very slow beat. Actually, Mark, you may as well just hold down a slow beat for them to... Right, if you just tune into what Mark's doing, it's a very slow beat. You hold it down with A holds it down with a hand clap. B, whenever you fancy taking it away, you read the first part of this poem to A, whenever you like.
Morning. Steady breath.
Steady breath.
Steady breath.
Right, freeze, stop. Where have you got? OK? Now do it without the drums, OK? So is it A holding down a clap? Right, so A holds down a very, very slow beat. B reads the poem to that beat. Right, go.
Pushing out to sea. Steady sun. Surfacing. Fire.
Right, OK, freeze. Where have you got to? Where have you got to? Right, and now swap over. So B does the clapping. We're going from groggily, groggily, and Mark's going to hold down the beat for you, and this is really, really sharp first. So Mark will hold down a quick beat. The one that's clapping is B, and A will now read the second half of the poem as quickly as they can. Go. Freeze. That's good. Now try that again, please, without the drum, but it's quick. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, start, go. Right, okay. What was wrong with the front end?
Too slow.
What would happen if you swapped it over? Well, no, if you swapped it over, so you did the first bit quite quickly. Morning, an island man wakes up to the sound of blue surf in his head, the steady breaking and booming. Would that make more sense?
Yeah.
Why would it make more sense to go like that? Yes.
It's a more upbeat beginning.
Certainly it's more upbeat. Ramon.
Because when you wake up, you're more alert than when you're going to sleep.
Depends where you wake up. The point of this is, it depends where he's waking up.
He's waking up to a Caribbean thing, but then he realises that he's in London, so he slows down.
So, yeah. So the first half of this poem, he's dreaming that he's waking up in Jamaica or something, and the beat, the meter of the poem is really swift. Morning, an island man wakes up to the sound of blues. Yeah, it's really, really full of passion and joy. Where does it turn? At what point does it go boom? Yeah.
He always comes back.
And there's a gap in there. And that gap, what does a gap in a piece of writing actually insinuate to you? A pause. Yeah, there's a pause here. He always comes back, boom. And where does he come back to? Reality, which is where?
London.
Okay. So what happens to the meter of the poem when he realises he's no longer?
It slows down.
Fantastic. The meter of the poem here slows down and it pivots on that gap. This is how, I think it should go. Morning, an island man wakes up to the sound of blue surf in his head, the steady breaking and booming. Wild seabirds and fishermen pushing out to sea. The sun surfacing defiantly from the east of his small emerald island. He always comes back. Groggily, groggily. Comes back to sands of a grey metallic soar, to surge of wheels, to dull nor circular roar. Muffling, muffling. His crumpled pillow waves, island man heaves himself. Another London day. Hear how the meter, the speed, thank you, Alan, the speed behind the poem actually affects the meaning, yeah? The poet has deliberately put the words together in such a way that the front end of it really buzzes and it's really punchy, that it's got a quick meter, a quick tempo. Notice that the whole poem pivots on that gap. He always comes back, boom, pause. And it's in that pause that the meter changes, and when it comes back in, groggily are the first two words, and there's repetition, groggily. Can you go through it and underline the verbs? Let's go through them from the top. The verbs are wakes, breaking, wombing, pushing, surfacing, comes. Oh, hold on, now we're starting to notice something. If this poem pivots on a central point, which is that pause, the verb before the pause, the verb before the pivot is what? Comes, yeah. Do we know what mathematical term that is? Do we know what mathematical term? No, for two things that balance. Yeah.
Head to something.
Well, there's kind of a symmetrical feel to this, isn't there? Let's think about the mood of the second half of the poem. It makes sense for the verbs wakes, breaking, wombing, pushing, really active verbs to be in this fantastic dream where he's waking up in the Caribbean. Do these verbs seem right? Surge, roar, waves.
Yeah.
In the second half of the poem, when he's back in London, are the verbs right?
No.
Alan. How? Explain.
He's using descriptive adjectives that you would find in Ireland, and he's bringing them back.
He's bringing the stuff from the island into
London.
Fantastic. That's exactly it. If you have a look, surge relates to the sea. Surge is something you see the sea in the Caribbean doing. Roar would be the sound of the sea. Waves, you find them in the sea, don't you? She's deliberately transplanting the actions from the Caribbean, the verbs from the Caribbean, putting them into London. And the fact that they're in there and they look so stupid is an emblem of what? Well, it's got a comedic impact, definitely. Anyone got an idea why they've deliberately put verbs that look like the seaside verbs into the London bit? Because they're out of place, aren't they? Yes?
She don't feel home in London, like, sort of, the Caribbean is where she belongs.
Yes, that's the whole of the message to the poem. Why has she put verbs in there from the Caribbean which are out of place into the second half? There's an ironic effect. You've got an idea.
Because she still hasn't gotten over that she's not there. She's still using words like, still imagining that she is there.
Yes, so even kind of the language of her thoughts is still Caribbean. Yes, you had an idea?
It could signify that the poet is suffering from, is dealing with London in a more nostalgic way.
Absolutely, yeah, there's nostalgia, and that's with the language in her thoughts.
She feels she doesn't fit into this lifestyle.
You're right. The language in the second half, the seaside language in the second half is out of place. How does the protagonist of the poem feel in London? Absolutely, out of place. So the language reflects how the protagonist feels. The verbs, the ing verbs, see how many there are. You got breaking, wombing, pushing, surfacing, muffling in the second half. The ing verbs are a specific tense called the present continuous. There's no end to it. There's no end to those ing verbs. And I'm just kind of throwing that in. What does anybody make of it?
This day is continuous, and she's never gonna get back to the Caribbean. She has to live the London life.
It's a good answer. However, most of the present continuous verbs are actually in the Caribbean section.
I mean, that she's never gonna get over Caribbean. She still dreams of it, but wakes up to reality in London or something.
Do you think this is the first time she's ever had this dream?
No.
Yeah. Every single night, and deliberately using the present continuous tense, breaking, wombing, pushing. It shows kind of the repetitive pattern of this dream. Have a look at lines 15 to 17. How many times is the U sound, the in there? 15 to 17 in those 3 lines. 4, yeah. What is the emotional mood what's the mood of the person when they're waking up and finding, I'm in London? Groggy, disappointed. Again, I think the poet's deliberately made a choice there in those repetitive sounds. Is a happy noise? No. It sure ain't. No, can I ask you to stand up and give us your reading of Island Man?
Morning, and the island man wakes up to the sound of the blue surf in his head, the steady breaking and warming, wild seabirds and fishermen pushing out to sea, the sun surfacing defiantly. From the east of his small emerald island, he always comes back. Groggily, comes back to the sands of the grey metallic shore, to surge of wheels, to dull, no circular roar. Muffling, his crumpled pillow waves. Island man hears himself, another London day.
Pick up your cans and your pencils. Okay, you start it, you stand up. So it'll be 3, 4, 3, 4. Yeah? You've all got to fit in with the beat that she gives, so don't start too quickly, tune into it first. Okay, stop. Can you hold down that bit again so you start it off? Right, I'm going to read the blessing. The skin... Right, it's too... The beat's too fast, so let's go... Sorry, what's your name? Aisha. Let Aisha start it off a little bit slower. The skin cracks like a pod. There never is enough water. Imagine the drip of it, the small splash echo in a tin mug, the voice of a kindly God. Stop. Right, try it again with just Aisha doing it. Can somebody... Alam, could you read the first bit out of the blessing, please, while Aisha's doing it?
The skin cracks like a pod. There is never enough water. Imagine the drip of it, the small splash echo in a tin mug, the voice of a kindly God.
The skin cracks like a pod. There never is enough water. Imagine the drip of it, the small splash echo in a tin mug, the voice of a kindly God. Right, just listen to Aisha again. Look at the first 6 lines of the poem. What's the poem about? Water? Drought. This poem is about, unequivocally, about drought and a shortage of water. It has a meter underneath there, a very obvious meter, which sounds like...
Water dripping in the can.
Yeah. Can you hear it? The meter of this poem is exactly the same as a dripping tap. The skin cracks like a pod. There never is enough water. And you can feel the beat under it. And the beat is deliberately exactly the same as a dripping tap. Imagine the drip of it, the small splash echo in a tin mug. The meter actually represents this splash, the echo in a tin mug. It's a fantastic piece of poetry, this. And it changes. From line 7, the meter completely changes. Sometimes a sudden rush of fortune. I'd like you, please, to go through it in your pairs and decide the exact point, the exact word that the meter changes from a slow dripping tap through to a burst pipe. The exact word, I want you to decide. Go. Okay, has anybody identified the exact word yet? Rush, well done. Fantastic. Right, what's your name?
Julian.
Julian.
Julian, yeah.
Julian. Right, Julian's going to give us a go with the drummer. Because, again, this very... You're going to have to stand up front, Jules. Very, very similarly to Island Man, only the exact reverse. Island Man starts off with an incredibly fast up-tempo meter, pivots on a gap, and then goes to a slow meter. Blessing starts on a dripping tap meter, and on the word rush, when the pipe bursts, it goes mental. Let's see how he does.
The skin cracks like a pod. There's never enough water. Imagine the drip of it, the small splash echo in a tin mug, the voice of a kindly God. Sometimes the sudden rush of fortune, municipal pipe burst into the silver, crash into the ground, and the flow has no found of raw tongues from the hurts of congregants. Every man, woman, child, the streets around, butts in with pots, brass, copper, aluminium, plastic buckets, frantic hands and naked children, screaming in a liquid sun, their highlights polished in perfection, flashing lights and the blessing signs all over their small bones.
That was way better than I could have dreamed of. Fantastic. Take a seat. Really, really good. How many times in the first line is that k consonant sound in there? 3 times. Right, so it's the skin cracks like a pod. Now, what does that line mean? It's the skin of what? Could be a person's skin. More likely, I see a picture of the soil. Yeah, because we're in a time of drought. Now think of the k sound. 4 times in that first line. K, k. It's onomatopoeic. Why is he using the k sound in a thing about things drying out?
Just emphasising how devastated the land is and how there's no water.
Yeah, how does a k sound relate to the fact that there's fissures appearing in the earth as it's getting drier?
The k sound is more of a hard sound, just like the soil is without the water.
That's a very, very, very good answer. It's not the one I was looking for, but it's better. Anybody else?
It helps you to hear the ground cracking kind of
Yeah,
thing.
it's the same sound. As ground cracks, what sounds it make? Good, don't go. Brooke, could you stand up for us, please? Give us your rendition of the blessing.
The skin cracks like a pod. There never is enough water. Imagine the drip of it, the small splash echo in a tin mug, the voice of a kindly God. Sometimes the sudden rush of fortune, the municipal pipe bursts, silver crashes to the ground and the flow is found a roar of tongues from the huts. A congregation, every man, woman, child, the streets around butts in with pots, brass, copper, aluminium, plastic buckets, frantic hands, and naked children screaming in the liquid sun, their highlights polished to perfection, flashing light as the blessing sings over their small bones.